So unlike my other quick videos, which always end up being like half hour, this will actually be a quick video because I've found a way to get these power steering racks to work a little bit better. So this is the power steering rack off my Vauxhall Agila, I don't know, which is the same as a Suzuki Swift, same vehicle, different badges. This is the electric power steering rack. This is where your steering column would attach, and there's normally a motor and a torque sensor and some other stuff. But I took the motor off because I was going to work out how it worked and see if I could fix it, and I broke it. So I scrapped the motor and this is all that's left. Anyway, the symptom that I had with this was when you steered one way and then it didn't self-center. The steering was just very stiff. You could feel it in the steering wheel, and I felt that exact same steering feeling before in an old Land Rover I had, an old 60s Land Rover, where if you tightened up the steering box adjuster too much, it was just stiff. It didn't want to do anything, and it felt the same on this. And what they do have is under here is a spring which pushes a little semicircular piece of metal against the back of this, which is the rack. You can see the teeth there. There's a gear in there, and it pushes that basically and holds it still. Now that is adjustable, but it shouldn't need adjusting after all this time. If anything, you would want to tighten it, and that's not what we're trying to do here. So I couldn't work out anything vaguely wrong with this, so I replaced it with a lower mileage rack, a 30,000 mile rack. This was done about 70, and it was an improvement, but it still wasn't good. But it was much better to drive because this was just awful to drive. You're constantly correcting the steering wheel manually because it was just stuck basically. And then I realised that I had to swap these because although the rack was lower mileage, this, which is off the low mileage rack, was loose. So I swapped the track rod ends off of the other rack onto this one. Now, in the process of doing that, I found something. So this is the actual process for what we're going to do. You can do this on the car. I can't really demonstrate because this is not my Suzuki. This is something else. But you can do this on the car. But you will have to lift the car up either on ramps or on a lift like this. This will be under your steering wheel area on the right-hand drive, obviously on the right-hand side of the car. The left-hand drive racks are a mirror image. What you need to do, firstly, this rubber boot will be clamped onto here. There will be a clamp around it, which is not a Jubilee clip. You have to break it to get it off. You'll see it's got a little ear bit on it, that's sort of like that shape. Jam a screwdriver in it, twist it over, snap it off, take the clamp off, pull the boot off, and then what you want to do is steer to the left. So turn your steering wheel to the left, and that will push out the rack and give you some room. You may need to hold this back. I'll crush this one. This means you can see a little bit of the rack and the inside of this housing. And what you need to do, get a whole load of grease. Any old bearing grease is all I've used. Get a whole load of grease, scoop it up and literally splurge it in there and force it in there. Turn the steering wheel to the right a bit, force a load more in. Fill that right up with grease. I think I even put some in there just for good measure. Steer to the right again, bring this back over and put this back on. Use a Jubilee clip to reattach that. Now you can't use a regular Jubilee hose clamp because it will be too wide. It will not fit in there, but you can get thinner ones. I've got loads of Jubilee clips knocking about. You probably won't have, but you can buy more narrow ones. And what we're going to do is, hang on, that will go back on, and then you'll put your Jubilee clip round. It sits in the grooves, and do that up. Don't go mad. Just tweak it. There's not a huge amount of force that goes into that, and that's just a dust cover. Now, for me, there was no effect, and my steering stayed exactly the same. But after a few hundred miles, I suddenly realised the steering was a lot better. It started to self-center more. Not that it was that bad with the new rack, but it was still not great. But it's slowly got better and better and better and become a more normal car. And I think what it's done is it's dragged the new grease through so many times through the mechanism. It slowly got into everything in there, in this bit at least. And it's made a huge improvement. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend. So essentially the fix is grease the damn thing. I did think there'd probably be a possibility to add a grease nipple somewhere, but you could only put a few bits of grease in every now and again, otherwise you'd fill the thing. So yeah, that's the process. And if you want to know what size Jubilee clip you need before you start, what we'll do is we'll measure this up. It's about 57 mil, so you're going to want a sort of 55 to 60 mil clamp or something like that. This isn't the right size one, it doesn't go all the way around. And you're going to want it to be quite narrow. Now the gap that we've got on this is 8.3. And I know that I used one of these, which is 9 and a smidge, and it did work, it squishes it a bit. Yeah, you can do that on the car. You will be able to get to this side from underneath the car without removing anything. It was a bit fiddly, I had to reach through a few places, but it was totally doable, no unbolting, and it is literally the price of a bit of grease and a Jubilee clip. And it's made a huge improvement to my steering. So give that a go. This is going to get scrapped now, and that's just in the bin. You don't need to do any of this. This was just me taking this rack apart after I took it off, thinking I'd find an obvious problem. And actually I didn't, and it was a right knob to take apart. So yeah, give it a go and let me know if it improves your steering. It did take, like I said, a few 100 miles for me to notice a difference, but it was a definite difference. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. If I helped you out, press the like button.